Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about this guy right here, Harold Bell Wright. So, Harold Bell Wright was a pretty interesting character. He was actually a writer, and he wrote several books. He was born in 1872 in Rome, New York, of all places. How he wound up in a little bitty town like Lebanon, Missouri, no one will ever know. But he was a pastor, and he came here to minister at one of the Christian churches. I believe at the time he was single. I can't find anything saying that he was married when he was here. But he lived in basically an apartment. And as he wrote many books while he was there, not all of his books, but some of his books, in his little office outside of his little apartment. I've had the luxury of speaking with the owner of the property now, and they said that they're trying to get the home on the National Registry of Historic Places. He did have several books that were turned into screenplays, they were turned into movies. Obviously, his biggest one was The Shepherd of the Hills, and it starring John Wayne in 1941. I think that was a little bit before John Wayne became a really big star, but I have watched the movie, and it is a very good movie. So this is the house. I know you can't see it because you're looking at my ugly mug, but this is the house. Oh, if I can get out of the sun. I hate the sun sometimes. There it is. So, right here is his office. When I did see the landlord, when I did speak to the landlord, he did show me inside. Showed me upstairs. Couldn't show me into anything because they've converted it into apartments. But in Harold's time, there used to be a livery stable that you can't see because of the stupid sun again. But there was a livery stable there, and that's where they kept the horses. Harold had a very interesting story about him. So one of the books that he wrote was called The Calling of Dan. It's either Dan Matthews or Dan Mathers. I can't remember. I've actually read the book. So he was such a good writer that he based this book on families that lived in and around the Lebanon area. But he was such a good writer that even though the names were changed to protect the innocent, so to speak, they know exactly who he was talking about. They were pretty well outraged about this. So he became one of the very few people that I can actually confirm through my research that was actually ran out of town on a rail. Like, they literally picked this guy up, put him on a fence rail, and ran him out of town. So best my research can tell me is after they run him out of town, he goes over to the next county over, and he sits on a hillside and prays for 3 days. And for a lack of a better term, he moves on. I mean, he just has no place else to go. So it's kind of neat that this all went down right here in Lebanon. There's been a lot of additions here and there, and some facts are kind of skewed because there's so many different people telling stories about him being here. The cool thing about this is one of the books that he wrote, The Shepherd of the Hills, when it became a movie starring John Wayne, is what the the tourist attraction of Branson is all based on this book, Shepherd of the Hills. Well, not really. It's actually based on the Bald Knobbers, which is another book that he wrote, which if you look at the history of the Bald Knobbers, it's really interesting. Everybody thinks they're hilarious characters. They were actually outlaws. But here in just a minute, I'm going to take you over and show you where the church that he ministered at here would have been. It was tore down. The best I can figure, it was tore down sometime in the 40s. Okay, guys, we are, as promised, going to show you where the original church was. Kind of noisy by a pretty busy road. Idiots everywhere. Crackheads are terrible. So, I believe this is the intersection. It's the intersection of Commercial and Washington. Not a whole lot here. It's down on the... Well, it'd be what, the east end of Commercial Street in Lebanon. Like I said, there's businesses down here now, but there is some history down here. But we believe, the best I can figure from all of the research, is that it's set on this intersection. Tractor. Go ahead. I hate traffic. I'm walking around it. But anyway, so they think it was on this intersection. Laclede County and Lebanon, they're not real good about keeping their historical facts. They tear down everything they can around here, and it's kind of irritating, to be honest with you. We had a historic jail, they tore it down. Historic buildings, they tear them down. It doesn't matter. They tear them down. But, so, I believe that the church stood here. As best I can tell from the maps, it actually stood right here. So there's not a whole lot here. The Lee Jean factory used to be right up there, where that big open spot is with all the dirt. It used to be the Lee Jean factory. There's a dry cleaning place right there. That place actually has a pretty cool little history about it too. I'll tell you about that sometime. Car lot that's closed down. This used to be one of the old brake shops here in town, and we think this is exactly where the church sat. It seems very funny to me that, you know, we as a community have forgotten this guy. I mean, absolutely famous, utterly famous people were in movies that were based on this guy's books. It said, you know, John Wayne and Shepherd of the Hills. He wrote another book called The Winning of Barbara White, I think. But they made it into a movie, and it had Gary Cooper in it. I mean, come on, you can't get bigger than Gary Cooper and John Wayne. You just can't. But anyway, we'll jump back over to the other street, and I'll tell you some more. So yeah, amazing writer. I've actually read The Calling of Dan Matthews. It's a very good book, and the crazy part about it is, if you know enough families around this town that I'm in, which, by the way, I don't know if I've actually said this or not, it's Lebanon, Missouri, you can still pick out those families to this day. The first I ever heard about this guy, the first I ever heard about this story, my mother, Mama Floof, was working at another Christian church, which we believe, and again, I could be wrong, but we believe that it is when they tore down the church that Wright actually preached at, they built a new church, and it's across the main drag over here. You don't need to see it, it's just a church. But that's the first time I heard about this. The minister of the church that my mom worked for had a copy of the book, and he kept it locked up, and he said it actually was owned by the church, and they refused to let anybody see the book. Now, I've went to the local library. I've went to the local libraries in the surrounding cities and counties, you can't get this book. You have to order this book off of Amazon. Now, if you're interested, I will leave a link somewhere, if I can figure out how to do it, to that book. The one that got him ran out of town on a rail. So he had a very colorful history, I should say. He got around a lot. So he was born in Rome, New York in 1872 and died May 24th, 1944 in La Jolla, San Diego, which is where he's buried at to this day. He owned a ranch out there called the Quiet Hills Farm. I've seen pictures. It's pretty cool. Just a little farm. But this is one of those things that history is slipping away. It's slipping away quickly. And unfortunately, if somebody doesn't try to say something about it, it'll be gone forever. So that's a little bit about Harold Bell Wright. Look him up. Interesting character. Read his books. Y'all have a great day. Danger Floof is